Nerd Morning, everyone. My name is Jeremy Miller, and today on the Nerd Morning Show, I am sitting down with Cassie Shiels, who is an independent author, and I actually am as well an independent author. So we wanted to talk about independent creatives, whether that's various platforms, and kind of some thoughts about that process, that experience, and some advice we have.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So let's have you introduce yourself.
I'm author Cassie M. Shiels, and I write in multiple genres. I write fantasy, I write romance, and it's all sweet and clean and fun. So my books are appropriate for readers who are ages tween. You're like 11-year-olds on up, as long as they want to start reading that sweet romance. Whether they want to read fantasy or contemporary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
I was checking on Amazon earlier this week, and I actually saw a thing where Amazon can analyze your digital book, and it'll tell you kind of like a reading level, which I thought was really, really cool. And it landed for my Becoming Interesting book between 16 and 18, which was perfect because it was kind of like this emerging into adulthood kind of story inside of that with it's a nonfiction piece. And I thought that was just like perfect. I had the right type of diction and vocabulary to hit that type of target audience that I was really kind of looking for. Anyways, I just discovered that. It was super, super awesome. It was kind of like a gay moment for me.
Yay! Well, that is so important, that point of making sure that you hit your target audience. And you have to hit that target audience in your indie world because you're in charge of everything with your cover as well as all the words that you have inside that book or project, whatever you're indie publishing,
Yeah.
And that is huge.
It's absolutely important to realize if you want to try to do indie type creative work, to know that you are all of the hats.
Yeah.
When you are working, with a regular publishing house, you get this book, you submit it to them, maybe you have an established relationship, maybe you're starting out, and those, obviously you get to a certain point no matter what, where you're submitting a book and they say, cool, great, now we're going to take over, we're going to make your cover for you, you're going to say thank you and love it, we're going to make a marketing campaign and you're going to thank us and you're going to love it.
But do your part.
But yeah, you're going to be promoting your own stuff, but essentially they're going to say, here's what you want, we've got you covered, and we're going to be able to do all this service. That's why you go to a professional publishing house. And if you're going to go an independent route, you are all of those hats.
Yeah, you are. You're in charge of your cover, your formatting, you're in charge of the font that your book's in, you're in charge of making the ebook or the audiobook or the paperback, you're in charge of the color of the paper even, Actually, do you remember having to pick between cream or white? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was actually a really interesting thing for me because I did two different colors. So I had a white on the regular book, the Becoming Interesting book itself, and it's essentially a book where I get a lot of bits of advice, and in the end of those I had all these different challenges that I legitimately want people to be trying because I've seen so many of these advice books where they're like, and just think about this really great idea, and you're like, wow, that's such a great idea, and then you set down the book and you don't do anything.
Sure, yeah.
And so on my second book, I made sure that I built a cream, and with the cream, it makes it so if you're outside, because a lot of these are active or trying to do things, that you don't have as much glare.
Oh,
and so it's just it's a little bit of a better experience. And I would say, generally speaking, I like white paper. I think that it's just a nice, clean book, but it does not make a good outdoor experience because the light from the sun is just so bright bouncing off on the page. So cream was a better match. And I had to be able to have and put all those types of things together when I go into the publishing, which may be considered by a committee of people inside of a publishing house. But if you're an independent author, you've got to make those considerations, you've got to make that plan, and then you have to choose to act on it based on the information that you have and go for it.
Yeah, because you're 100% in charge and responsible for how that book comes out. Whether you hire an editor to assist with editing your book, which I completely recommend. You can never see everything.
Yeah.
You know, and whether you hire somebody to help you with your cover, or you can even hire people to do the typesetting, or you can do that yourself, you know. But one way or another, you're responsible. It's all on you.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to make sure you're willing to wear all those hats if you want to go the indie route. It is a great route. I'm an indie publisher. All of my books have gone the indie publishing route, and I really, really like it. I think I like to control all the little things. If you don't like to control all the little things, traditional publishing might be the better choice for you, because you do have a little bit of say with what goes down, but ultimately they're making the final decisions.
Yeah, particularly if you've established a long-term relationship with that publishing house. They know and you know kind of how each other works.
Yeah.
Then obviously you maybe have a little bit more freedom. But if it's like your first book and you're really passionate about doing things in a particular way, they might say, you know, we don't want to do that. And I've actually read, I read a ton of books.
Oh, yeah. Like, way more
and
than me.
I've seen several books that I'm like, wow, this cover and this book don't match at all. But as an independent creator, you're doing all of that work by yourself, for yourself, and so you have ultimately the last say, where you surrender some of that last say as you work with people in your collaboration.
Yeah, but you got to make sure that you do your research, because if you're in charge of, let's say, your cover, you got to make sure your cover fits your genre.
Yeah.
You know, which is huge. I mean, your covers you made sure fit your genre. I made sure that mine were fitting my genre, you know, but if you get the wrong cover for your book, the thing is, it can tank your sales super bad, because people won't like your cover. They always say, don't judge a book by the cover, but guess what? Everybody does. Judges the book by the cover. And if you're telling by your cover that your book is one kind of book and it's actually a different kind of book on the inside, it just messes everything up.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, okay, yes, you're in charge of your cover, but you gotta get it right, you know. And I'm not dissing traditional publishing in any way. I actually want to do that too. I want to be a hybrid author.
Yeah.
I'm an indie author now. I want to be a hybrid author where I publish in both. I want to do the books that I want to have all the little details and control on, and the books that I want to give to a publisher and say, make this so wonderful because I know you'll do a better job at that, you know. And so it's one of those wonderful things now that we can do both, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Given 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, like, you could pick one or the other, and you could not do both. And I think that particularly with literature, like, those types of books are being a little bit more accommodating, a little more accepting. And I think that they've seen that if you're able to have a following, and then you're able to do those well, then they can get you and your readers to start working with them. And they really, really like that moving forward.